ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शांति शांति शांति। Namaskar my dear friend, this is video number 5 on Panchadasi of Bharti Tirtha Vidyarnaya Swami. In this chapter, inquiry into the world of duality, Advaita Viveka Prakarana. The fourth chapter is devoted to a discriminative knowledge of the world of dualities, which is a creation of Ishvara and the Jiva. When the world is known to be a non-real superimposition, then the bonds of the Jiva will break. The fetters of the Jiva are forged by ignorance, and to remove ignorance, the cause of misery, we need the light of wisdom. Maya, the creatrix of the world. It cannot be said as some Mimamsakas assert that the Jivas themselves are the authors of the world through the latent potency called Adrashta. This view of the Mimamsakas contradicts the authority of the scriptures. The Svetaswatra Upanishad of the Black Yajurveda asks us to understand Maya as the primal nature or material cause of the world, and the wielder of the Maya, namely Brahma, as the Supreme Lord who creates the world. The Aitreya Upanishad of the Rig Veda says that prior to creation, there was the Atma alone. It thought, let me procreate, and through its desire all these worlds came forth. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, the order of creation is traced to the Atma. The Chandogya Upanishad to the Samaveda proclaims, in the beginning the Sat alone existed, one only without a second. It desired, let me become many, and it created the elements and their effects. In describing the process of world creation, the Mundaka Upanishad of the Atharva Veda implies the analogy of the sparks issuing forth from fire. As from fire sparks are born, so from the Aksara, the imperishable, are created the manifold existents, both inert and intelligent. Fire that is not fed by fuel is not conditioned by limitations, and it does not give rise to sparks. The self that is not limited by the adjuncts Maya and nescience is impartite intelligence. It is not productive of the dualities of the world, but the specific nature of the intelligence as conditioned by Maya and Avidya creates the world. We hear from the Vidyarnaya Upanishad of the White Yajurveda that this world of names and forms has its roots in Brahma, which is the expressed sense of the word Tirtha. Prior to creation, the world was unmanifest and there was only Brahma. All the percepts of our present experience are posterior to creation. They are manifest in the forms of Virat and other objects. All these beings, subhuman, human and superhuman, came from the Avyakirta which alone existed prior to their production. These scriptural texts declare that Brahma entered into these dual thrones in the form of the Jiva. The immutable self became as it were the subject of modifications. The scriptures speak of the self's entrance only in a figurative sense. The proprietary rights which it seems to exercise over the perishing body and mind are born of ignorance. The imperishable comes to be talked of in empirical usage as the finite jiva, and it is called the jiva because it is the sustainer of life. The intelligence, which is the fundamental substrate, the subtle body, and the reflection of intelligence in it constitute what is known as the jiva. Just as the pot ether, the pot with water, and the reflection of the cosmic ether in it constitute the content of the pot, so also the jiva is a complex of the substrate intelligence, the internal organ, antahakarana, its limiting adjunct, and the reflection of the intelligence obtained in it. Maya, which is the power of the Lord, has, besides the potency of creating the world, the power to delude the jiva. It is due to this delusion that the jiva imagines itself to be finite and particular. It forgets its infinity and blissful nature, identifying itself with the psychophysical organism. It becomes the experient of the sweets and bitters of life. The Lord is the creator of this world of sentient and insentient beings. Number 2, world created by Jiva. The world created by the Jiva is expounded in the Saptarnar Brahmana of the Vidyarnaya Upanishad. It is stated there that through knowledge and action of the Jiva brought forth the 7 ingredients of enjoyment. Those 7 are rice, etc., which form the food for man, Drishya and Purnamasa, which belong to the Devas, milk, the food for animals, mind, speech, and prana of the Jiva. These 7 ingredients are no doubt created by the Lord, for they form a part of the world of which Ishvara is the originator, sustainer, and destroyer. Though they owe their existence to the Lord, the character of their enjoyability is due to the Jiva. Ishvara is the ground of their existence. The Jiva is the subject of their experience. The world of the 7 ingredients is the offspring of Ishvara and the object of enjoyment for the Jiva. This is comparable to a damsel being the daughter of her father and the wife of her husband. The desire of the Lord in the form of function of Maya is instrumental in the production of the world. The desire of the Jiva in the form of a mental mood is the instrument to enjoy the world. It cannot be asserted that the enjoyability of an object is inherent in its existence and that therefore the agency of the Jiva is not intelligible. Though a ruby is a single object, it arouses in its experienced different feelings and different emotions. These differences in experiencing the same object are due to the different modes of the mind. One person obtaining the ruby is overjoyed, another not obtaining it gets angry. A third, who is a saint, is unaffected by these changing passions. If the experiential quality is inherent in the existence of the ruby, then it must evoke in everyone the same kind of response, which it does not. Hence, it is the jiva that has the agency in respective of experiential quality of the object. One and the same woman takes on different roles with regard to different persons. She is daughter to her father, wife to her husband, sister to her sisters and brothers, and so on. It cannot be said the knowledge of the woman varies and not the woman herself. For a variance in knowledge is dependent on a difference in the known. There are two women here, one made of flesh, etc., and the other constituted by mind. The visible woman of flesh and blood is the creation of the Lord, but the psychical woman is a projection of the Jiva. Though there is no variation with regard to the physical person, the psychical woman differs in difference to the different individuals with whom she is related. It cannot be contended that there is no psychical self in waking consciousness where the physical universe alone is patent and that mental modifications are useful in normal abnormal experiences like delusions, dreams and daydreams. In waking life there is the physical object, but it is through the mind that the object is cognized. What actually happens in the cognition of an object is this: the mind goes out to the object through the channels of senses and takes on the form of the object. In the words of Sankara, just as the molten metal that is poured into the mold takes on the shape of the latter, the mind that pervades or grasps an object with form assumes the form of the object, or even as the light of the sun takes on the shape of the object which it illumines, the intellect that manifests all objects assume the form of the object which it reveals. The Vartikakara observes thus: from the knower arises the instrument of knowledge. On reaching the object to be known, the Pramana assumes the generic form of the object. Now we have two forms for every object of cognition, the physical and the psychical and the physical. If the object of knowledge be the pot, then we have the mud pot and the mind pot. The mud pot is perceived by the modification of mind, whereas the mind pot is cognized by the witness. The mind pot is a creation of the Lord. The mud pot is a creation of the Lord, and mind pot is a manufacture of the Jiva. 3. Causality of the world, different views. Differences prevail regarding the doctrine of the causality of the world even among the upholders of Advaita. All the Advaitins are agreed in maintaining the material causality of Brahma consists neither in origination nor in transformation but only in illusory manifestation. Yet as to what aspect of Brahma gives rise to this illusory world, the Advaitins have a different answer to give. Some followers of the Sanksepa Priraka that the pure Brahma alone is the material cause of the world. The author of the Vivarna holds that the material cause is only that aspect of Brahma which is Isvara as qualified by omniscience etc. and associated with Maya. There are some who assert that the Jiva alone is the material cause. Isvara, the subjective world, and the objective universe are all the objects of the creation. To some Vedantins, Brahma is the material cause of the entire empirical world, but the Jiva is the cause of the fictitious world of dreams. Some who maintain the identity of Maya and Avidya propound the theory that God is the material cause of the objective world and the Jiva of the subtle subjective world. Others who hold that Maya and Avidya are not identical say that the Lord is the cause of the macrocosmic objective world, while the Jiva is the cause of the microcosmic subjective world, mind, etc. Since the universe of ether, etc., is a transformation of Maya located in the Lord, in respect of that, the Lord is the material cause. Since, however, the internal organ, etc., are products of the subtle elements produced by the Jiva's nescience in conjunction with the gross elements, which are the evolutes of the Maya located in the Lord. In respect of them, there is material causality of both the Jiva and the Lord. Brahma Tirtha Vidyarnaya seems to uphold the last mentioned view. According to him, Isvara and the Jiva are the joint creators of the world. But there is this difference. While Isvara is the principal author, the Jiva is only a subsidiary parent. In respect of the existence of the world, Isvara is the ground, whereas in respect of the enjoyment, the Jiva is the locus, and the nature of the creation of the Jiva is psychical rather than physical. Number 4. Jiva's bondage. The Jiva is bound by its own offspring. It forges its own fetters. The object of its enjoyment, which is psychical in nature, throws it into transmigratory existence. Through co-presence and co-absence, it can be shown that bondage is dependent on the mental manufacture of the Jiva. The polarities of life like gaiety and grief stand or fall with the created world of the Jiva. The polarities which constitute the bonds of the Jiva do not depend on the external world created by the Lord. Though there are no external objects in dreams, the dreaming subject is bound, and though the external objects exist during the states of samadhi, swoon, and sleep, they do not bind the subject of these states. Hence, the principle of cooperation, co-presence, and co-absence is not applicable to grief and gaiety in relation to world created by the Lord. The polarities of empirical existence are but creations of the mind. A father, being falsely informed that his son in a far-off land is dead, weeps, even though the death of the son be a fact. So long as the news does not reach the father, he does not grieve. Elation and depression are dependent on the mind. They do not really rest on external facts. It is the mental world created by the Jiva that binds it. It is the mind that makes a hell of heaven and a heaven of hell. If the mental world alone is the cause of bondage, And if bondage be not dependent on the external world, then of what use is the external world? The jiva has to do with its own world of mind. It is revolving as it were in a circular panorama from which it cannot get out. What the jiva is conscious of is only its mind and the modification thereof. Is this not subjectivism akin to that of the Buddhist Vidyarnaya? Is not Advaita then Buddhism in disguise and its author crypto-Buddhist? These fears are not well founded. Advaita is not subjectivism, though the immediate sense of bondage is the mental world. The cause of the world of mind is the external world. So far as the empirical level of existence is concerned, the Advaitin is a realist in the sense that he posits the existence of the external or extra mental world as the source and substance of the world of mind. In fact, even mind, according to Advaitin, is material and a superfine and subtle product of the five elements. Even accepting the argument of the opponent that the existence of external subjects is futile, the Advaitin can defend his position against the charge of subjectivism. To say that the external objects are useless is not equivalent to the negation of their existence. The criterion of reality is not pragmatic. Utility is not the test of truth. It is well known fact that the avenues of cognition do not have usefulness as their end, while the subjectivity denies the while the subjectivists deny the external objects altogether. The Advaitin accepts their relative existence, although he may or may not agree to the statement that they are futile. Fifth, knowledge the means to release. Now it has been said that bondage is born of mind. If the fetters be more creations of the mind, then may not the control of mind as laid down by the yoga system bring about release? Why then should Dharma knowledge be declared to be the means to liberation? The Advaitin replies that the yogic control of mind cannot yield lasting release. The tail of the dog looks straight so long as it is held straight, but as soon as it is let off, it assumes its natural curl. The attempt to achieve release through the method of yoga is analogous to the above example. Final liberation is not the fruit of mind control. It can be achieved only by Brahma knowledge. The essence of Vedantic teaching is that the cognition of Brahma is the only direct means to the realization of ultimate release. The Upanishads declare, knowing the divine, he is released from all bonds. Knowing the blissful, he reaches perfect peace. To free oneself from pain without the cognition of Brahma is as difficult as to roll the sky as a sheet of skin. It is possible for the followers of Advaita to know the non-dual Brahma by realizing the non-reality of the world created by the Lord. Although the dualities of that world be not destroyed, as the rays of the sun are not different from the sun itself, as the appearance of the snake in the place of the rope has no other substrate than the rope. The world created by the Lord has no other ground than Brahma. Like the snake, it is an appearance and is not real. Knowing in this manner the apparent nature of the world, the Advaita realizes the absolute. The presence or the absence of the world does not affect the knowledge of Brahma or the absence thereof. It is not the existence of the world that is the cause of ignorance and misery, so much as the belief that it is real. If the non-manifestation of the world be the cause of Brahma knowledge, then all beings at the Parlaya and individuals during sleep must be realizing the bliss of Brahman. But they do not get rid of nescience and become blessed with the vision of the Absolute, because they do not possess the light of the wisdom got from the preceptor and from the sacred Lord. Further, it is improper to be cross with the world created by the Lord, for instead of being an obstacle to the realization of the truth, it is an aid to it. Just as the existence of the powder does no way affect the knowledge of its clay clayishness, so also the world manifest by the Lord does not stand in the way of realizing that it has no reality apart from Brahma. On the contrary, the perceptor and the scripture, who form a part of the created universe, are valuable aids to the perception of the world. Twofoldness of sixth, twofoldness of duality created by Jiva. The duality created by the Jiva are twofold: those that are prescribed by scripture and those that are prohibited by it. Those that are enjoined by scripture ought not to be relinquished till the onset of wisdom. The inquiry into the nature of Dharma, which is identical with the self, is the mental world that is enjoined by scripture. Study, contemplation, and rational consideration of the implications of scripture are mental operations, and as such, they are the creation of the jiva. They are to be given up when the real is known, but not till then. If it be said that enquiry is to be conducted for all time on the basis of the statement of the Shruti, which says that time should be spent in Vedantic inquiry till sleep and till death, the Advaitin replies that this passage of scripture is intended to prohibit thoughts about desire, etc., and not to enjoin the study, etc., of scripture by one who has realized the self. This is evident from the prior half of the Shruti passage, which declare that no room should be given to desire, etc., which are contrary to the bliss of release in life. There are scriptural texts which proclaim that even the Shastras must be relinquished after the intuition of Brahma. The wise one, after studying the scriptures and pondering often over their meaning and realizing the Supreme Self, ought to relinquish them as one would leave off burnt up firebrand. The learned one, after gaining a good training in the scriptural studies and realizing the truth by mediate cognition and intuitive knowledge should leave off all the sacred lore, even as the one who gathers grains would discard the cumbersome straw. The hero who longs to realize the self should intuit Brahma and remain firm therein. He should not give room for the activity of the mind by ruminating over the meanings of sounds. Realize only the one reality and leave all other words, both scriptural and non-scriptural. The knower must make his speech dissolve in the mind. All these Upanishadic texts declare that even the world enjoined by scripture ought to be given up when the absolute is intuited. The non-scriptural duality is of two kinds, dull and intense. Desire, anger, etc. come under the former category, while daydreams fall under the latter. Both these kinds ought to be discarded even prior to the dawn of knowledge. For we hear from Shruti that calmness, sama, and equanimity, samadhana, form part of the qualifications which are to be acquired before the cognition of Brahma could be had. And after the attainment of Brahma knowledge, also the two categories of non-scriptural duality are to be shunned in order to achieve liberation in life. To a person who is bound by desire and like there cannot be the joy of freedom. If it be said that the supreme goal of man is the escape from the throes of birth and death, which can be achieved only by a release at the time of the destruction of the body, and if the utility of liberation in life be questioned, the Advaita records if you deny liberation in life for fear of leaving the enjoyments of this world, then be satisfied with the happiness of heaven. And at the end of this earthly life, and the final release must also be shunned by you, since it will deny you heavenly pleasures. But it may be urged that the pleasures of heaven are not eternal, and so they are not to be striven after. Then even desire and other sources of misery which form the basis of worldly enjoyment and consequent pain are to be relinquished because they are contrary to the supreme end of life. It may be thought that there is nothing wrong if an aspirant in the path of jnana does not leave off harmless desires which are instrumental to the enjoyment of his prarabdha, and that if he has freed himself from positively harmful wishes, he can enjoy the object of this world. But this is not a correct line of reasoning. A jnani is he who has transcended the path of works, and he cannot be free from works if he has not discarded all his desires. Desire is the seed of deeds, and it is by destroying the seed that the offshoot can be totally made to perish. If a person has not renounced all desires, even after knowing the truth, then he will land himself in a life of chaos, fraught with the danger of degradation and death. He would descend to the animal level, living a life of instincts and impulses. If the jnani were to be led by the lure of his instincts, then as Sureswara says, there would be no distinction between him and the dog which lives upon field. Prior to knowledge, he had to experience only his mental worries. But now, after acquiring knowledge, or if he has not renounced his desires, he has to put up with the chiding of the people. The truth is that there can be no knowledge unless even the trace of desire vanishes. The seeker of the truth must renounce all worldly desires, and then he will be adored by all. The way to renounce desire is to refrain from longing for the worldly objects. If the object of desire be recognized as perishable and as a source of pain, there will be no desire for it. The external objects can lure us only so long as we run after them in the hope of getting happiness. But when, on inquiry, we find that they are not the real source of happiness, all their charm will fade and we shall cease to pursue them. The mental functions like desire are to be renounced because they are productive of pain. But why should harmless occupations of the mind such as daydreams and idle musings be prohibited? It is true that the latter kind of mental operations is not directly the source of misery, but it is nevertheless the root of pain since it is the cause of desire and other defects. Sri Krishna says in the Gita, attachment to objects is formed in a man who constantly thinks of them. From attachment springs longing, and from longing anger grows. 7. Stillness of mind. It is possible to still the idle musings of the mind by nirvikalpa samadhi, and the latter is easy of accomplishment through savikalpa samadhi. This is the yoga method of quietening the mind. The other method of mental conquest, namely the prolonged uttering of the Parnava, is adopted by those who live in solitude, who are rid of the defects of the internal organs such as desire, and who have known the truth. When by these methods the tendencies of the mind are conquered, there will reign the stillness of silence, the joy of peace. Says Vasishtha described this state of supreme felicity to Rama thus: by the knowledge that there is no external object to be cognized, if the mind be emptied of all modes, then there is attained the highest freedom and unsurpassable bliss. The scriptures have been sufficiently studied and their implications have been understood by people through discussions and instructions. But the highest abode is not reached except through the state of serenity which is without even a trace of mental tendencies. There may arise sometimes due to prarabdha even in the mind, which has been rendered quite tendencies to modification. But these get curbed by themselves since there is the force of prior practice and spiritual perfection. The person who has conquered the projecting tendencies of the mind and who has intuited the self is declared to be identical with Brahma by those who know the truth. As says Vasishtha puts it, he who has realized his inner nature to be pure intelligence, leaving off both knowledge and non-knowledge, is himself a Brahma and not a knower of a Brahma. This supreme state of liberation in life is attained by excluding the mental fabrication of the jiva, which is the source of pain. In this manner, the present chapter has achieved its purpose by discriminating the world created by the jiva from that manifested by the Lord, and by declaring that the former alone binds the jiva and screens his vision from ultimate truth. So I end this video here. The next video number 7 will start with chapter 5, Inquiry into the Major Text. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot. Namaskar my dear friends.